Love you too. And that's
Hola, hola amigos, and helps you walk again, familia. I'm Carolinaaah, and I'm so excited to be here to help share this monkey chaser story. I have known Sweet for years, but we grew so much closer when I visited him in Bali back in 2017. We did so many amazing things like scuba diving in Gili Island. We visited the monkey forest. By the way, I did not chase any monkey. Any monkey. Zero monkeys. Zero monkeys. And of course, we partied with Sweet on his party boat. That was so much fun. And if you know Sweet, you know it was an epic adventure. Well, I believe the universe conspires in so many ways, especially when I was next to Sweet in the intensive care unit in Kuala Lumpur after his life-saving surgery. That was over 5 years ago, and so much happened since then. Well, the universe is back at it, and my purpose today is to say hello. I'm Carolinaaah, and let you know I will be here sharing Sweet story from the beginning. Why do you think I'm running around out here in the desert? She has so many awesome things going on. And since you helped Sweet walk again, save his life, we invite you to be part of his recovery mission. Now that you know why I'm here, please follow us in Instagram, in Twitter, in TikTok, and subscribe to watch us live on YouTube. I'm so excited to be part of the amazing community that was created when everybody came together.
If you want to make a person feel better after they sneeze, you shouldn't say God bless you. You should say you're so good looking.
Like we say, always remember, we're all in this together. See you again soon. Ciao. Hasta la vista. Bye.
We cannot hear you what you say. You gonna have to speak up. The planet is in my trunk, sound like somebody is getting beat up. If you're with me, you wishing to keep up, then you must pick your feet up. I've been known to steer the show, although I'm only just a feature.
The official mission of the Help Sweet Walk Again organization is
to create in our society the acceptance and availability of stem cell therapies and
help underprivileged and needful citizens gain access to their tremendous impact potential. 1. By educating the public to understand that stem cell science is a proven, safe, and effective method that is no longer a moral or ethical issue.
2. By advocating for legislative funding for research and development of attainable, affordable treatments.
And 3. To help affected people receive the necessary funding that will lead them to living more fulfilled and joyful lives.
I'm Carolinaaah.
Oh, suck it now. Hell yeah. I know my dogs are watching, and if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are watching and you ain't my dog yet, you will be, because I'm Sweet and I'm here to help you get busy living. Tonight, we are going to rewind and relive our favorite moments from the last year. How our vision is coming together, building a community, believers, and getting busy living a deliberate and purposeful life. But first, since nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing, please help me welcome to the stage my co-pilot on this journey, the one and only out of Los Angeles, the dazzling D-Rex. What's up? Do I have a D-Rex in the house tonight? Hey, it's always a mystery, y'all, if we're going to get it on and popping or not. Ladies and gentlemen, if D-Rex doesn't show up, it won't be quite the same, but luckily, we're not alone in this thing. So if you guys are in the comments, say what's up. Oh, there she is. Don't do me like that.
I was pressing the button. I could not arrive, but here I am, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to see your smiling face once again. 1 year after our initial
1
launch of this
year.
podcast. And it's amazing because so many things have happened, and we have added yet another co-host. And why don't we go ahead and welcome our friend Caro?
Get her in. What's up, girl? Carolina. You know, we got to get it. So I like the Carol behind the curtain thing, but since you're not behind the curtain this time, it's not quite the same.
So why you don't do the welcoming that like you do to D-Rex?
Hey, because she's the one and only dynamic, dazzling Rexcellence. That's why.
You know,
But
you
you'll
can
get
you
yours.
can have the
Hey.
laugh and clap here. Nobody. really-
Thank you. Yes, it was so quiet. I'm like, this is not fair. But I'm so
That's
happy
right.
to be here. I'm so glad
No,
to see you guys.
We need some
again.
theme music for our Caro.
I
Awesome.
agree,
Yeah.
and that's a failure on my part. That's a failure on my part. But well, hey, don't worry, girl. We're gonna get you up to speed because you are also one and only. And after 1 year doing this, if I've learned anything from this year, it's that, man, you can't do any of it alone. And you guys, I mean, you guys are really, you're my rocks. You're my rocks. I was just telling Carol about this a couple minutes ago that when you are in a circumstance where you're relying on people, it amplifies everything when you are not solely responsible for your own life. And as somebody that's been so independent my whole life, it's different. And so I love and appreciate you guys. But we got 1 year of podcasting to talk about. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah, it's been this year flew by. And you know what? Can we just say hello to anybody who is here? Please say hi in the comments so we can include you in the conversation. Because I'm sure that if you're here tonight, you've been here somewhere along the way. And if you're brand new, we want to know who you are. So make sure you say hello so we can say hi to you.
Absolutely. What's up? Right off the top, maybe the most important. Got such good news. I'm gonna wait till the time is right to spread the word on that. But that girl is special to all of us. Lori Colonna in the house. Hey, seriously though, I did not get a chance to do all of the things once again that are necessary. But the one thing that I did do is talk to Lori about my man Schaefer and his progress and what exciting news we have. But before we get to that, D-Rex, I mean, 1 year ago, we were I think we were like freshly off of show number 2. And that's, this is part 2 of our 1 year celebration. And
Right.
and do you remember that feeling? Like, I remember how nervous I was. I still get nervous because it's fun, but I remember that feeling back when we first kicked it off. It was like when you step out of a sauna and like you can feel the steam rolling off your body in the cool gym. That's how I used to feel after the shows a year ago. And that it's not that it's worn off. I still feel that, but now I feel it's more of an air of a, like, before I used to feel like I was coming out of a high intensity performance. Now I feel like I've eaten a fresh good meal each week.
Well, you know what? I actually used to be nervous when we first started this, and I'm not nervous at all anymore. And let me tell you why. And it ties into today's theme, where we have met and talked to so many amazing people that have dropped so many amazing nuggets of wisdom that I'm really amazed at how much I've learned and grown in the past year, according to what I've heard on this podcast that I'm on. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be reviewing all of the wonderful things that we have talked about with all of these wonderful guests in the past year. And lucky listener, you get to catch up on a year's worth of wonderful knowledge in one episode, and that is today.
Absolutely. So now, what we are talking about when we were discussing how we wanted this show to go, and man, I had so many like emotional moments. I couldn't even talk about them all. I could only pick one thing to talk to you about. But I mean, the fact that we have mentioned at different points throughout this year that we want to be able to say that not only did we share this wisdom with other people, but it sunk in for us too. You know what I mean? And there's
Mhm.
no way for us to go over all of the amazing nuggets of info that we've reviewed, gotten out of our guests in the past year. So we're just gonna have to kind of rapid fire through this, D-Rex, just like give our
Yeah.
shout
Oh, I
outs,
know it.
you know, and but before we go, I can't say this enough, that for all of the gratitude I have for all the guests that we're going to talk about today, and all of the wisdom they've imparted upon us, that there is none that I have more gratitude for than the two of you. It's amazing, D-Rex, how close we've come in a year. I mean, I've always felt close to you, you know, since high school, even though we had 2 decades where we didn't even see each other really. But I've always felt like you were my homie. You know what I mean? But
You're
now it's like
certainly my
you're like my
homie.
sister, you're my aunt, you're my psychiatrist. You know, you're like you're the you're not the devil on the shoulder or the angel on the shoulder. You're kind of like the light bulb at the top of the head, being like, "Don't listen to either one of those motherfuckers."
Well, I
and
like that. Well, thank you very much.
and it's wonderful to have you, and it's amazing how close Carolinaaah and I have gotten. You know, it's high intensity closeness over here, you know, and let's be honest, I'm a demanding individual to be in the presence of. You know, it's not like I'm not just a fly on the wall. When I'm in the room, it's like all the lights are on, everything's turned up, and like even the oven's hanging open. and, and this poor girl has to live with me. So it's amazing that we haven't torn each other's faces off yet. In fact, I'm happy to say that we still get along
Yes.
like Forrest and Jenny. So thank
It's
both of you.
been
Thank
it's
you.
been
Thank you.
thank you. No, it's been 5 months since I can't believe I'm part of this project, and it's something that I never thought about. Like when I came here, I was just thinking about come to help you a couple weeks, and I ended up being part of this project, and I'm so happy, and I'm learning so much. And like Sweet says, it's been so intensive, but we learning too much, and but actually, this journey for me started in Malaysia. I can say Malaysia. So
Yes.
yeah, that's when I really uh, became part of this adventure, of this journey with Swiss, and I was in the ICU next to him, helping him. That's when I really started. But yeah, since 5 months, I'm part of, more part of this project, and this is
Yeah, this
amazing. I
Yeah,
couldn't be happier.
and we are glad that you are here. We are so glad that you are.
Thank you, guys. I'm
And
so
you
happy
have been
to.
around to see all of these episodes too, so I'm sure you have a lot to say as we move. Sweet,
yeah,
was there
and
anything else you wanted to add before we start talking?
yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, with the two of you, I just want to lead in by saying that, you know, none of this would be possible. I've got too much going on that I rely too heavily on too many people. And without the two of you, I wouldn't have any of it. So thank you. But we're going to go down this list of shows and talk about the people and things we've learned. And I just hope that for those of you that will hear this in the future and that are here with us now, that you understand that, you know, I've been gifted a second lease on life because of an unbelievable amount of human kindness, and each one of you guys have been a part of that in some way, shape, or form. And that I hope that, you know, with the effort that I'm putting forth to try to gather this collective wisdom from all these guests and the stuff that I've learned from D-Rex and we've taught each other, and we just hope that you can be a part of this, because we want to gather it and shine it down upon you. And we hope that at the end of this show that you truly believe that not only are we getting busy living, that we truly are all in this together.
Well, I truly believe that, and I feel it, and we've been living it for the past year.
Oh,
That
yeah.
we have all been in this together. I want you guys to let me know if I'm cutting out. My Wi-Fi is a little tricky today, but I'd really like to start off by thanking everybody at High Country Adaptive Sports, because they've played a huge role in everything that we have been able to do this year. And Truman and Carly over there have been like angels on earth to us, because I don't know how many people who watch this have a disabled friend besides you, and I think that it's really opened my eyes to where the limitations are to hanging out And Truman and Carly have provided opportunities for you to hang out with us in ways that we wouldn't be able to otherwise, which is riding bikes and doing these outdoor activities, kayaking. It's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it really has. And they blew me away when I first met them. I didn't know that there were people like them on the planet, people that really do pour their selves into the well-being of others in such an immense way. And actually, you might not know this, D-Rex, but Carly actually accepted a promotion, and as of I think 2 weeks ago, she's moved to Tahoe.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we're not gonna
okay.
Yeah,
see her around
so
anymore.
so she won't be local, but
Oh.
our parting shot was that I told her that, you know, she's like, obviously coming to, come to Tahoe, sweet, we're gonna get you on the slopes one way or another, you know. And I was like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's don't tempt me with a good time. That's on my way to Seattle, and that's a Steelers game. I'm heading up to New York, or for New Year's. I'm gonna go to Seattle for a Steelers game. So I'm like, you know, that's kind of right on the way. So we'll see. But seriously though, High
We'll
Country
see.
Adaptive, much love, tons and tons of love, tons of love.
Yeah,
And
and I mean it's not easy to load up these big bikes with all of this adaptive
Oh
equipment on it.
no.
It's not easy to get us all into these kayaks and lead us on these
No.
trips. And I just want to say, it's really important to have these opportunities where we can all do these active things together. Without them, it would be difficult or non-existent. And it's been very important to Swede's mental health as well, wouldn't you say?
absolutely, you kidding me? They got me at the Grand Canyon. They got me out on that sail, the little catamaran, mini catamaran wind sail. They've got me on bikes. They've got me
Mary
rock
Lake.
climbing. They've got, I mean, they tried to get me on the ski slopes. It was not
Mm-hmm.
by any fault of their own that I wasn't able to make it up there. But yeah, they've been
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And, you know, and somebody, speaking of High Country Adaptive, uh, Kim, when she was describing to us the way that the it feels for her, and for those of you guys that didn't catch it, Kim, oh man, D-Rex, I didn't make the list of which episodes who was in what. But Kim was she's a champion skier. Like the adaptive equipment that High Country and all these other different disabled sports equipment companies use, she was one of their pioneers in developing the that contraption, that tetra ski. And like when she was describing going downhill and how you don't get that feeling when you spend your, you know, most of your life disabled, a lot of your lives disabled, or if any of your life you've been disabled at all, you miss out on these feelings sometimes. And how exhilarating it was for her describing the snow hitting her face as she's going downhill like high speed in that ski, and the jubilance in her voice when she was describing that just like made me tear up. That girl, another one that I really appreciate her being a guest on the show as well.
Yeah, I found it really interesting to hear her talk about her loving to do these outdoor activities whenever she gets a chance, and pushing her physical limitations, because she's always been in a wheelchair. But she gets out to do these activities more than some people we know who are completely able-bodied. And I just found her to be such an inspiration. So
absolutely.
Anybody listening would like to go back and check that episode with Kim, her down.
It's episode 23.6.
Amazing. Okay.
Episode verse 23.6, which means that's the 6th week of this year. So around early February. Yeah, Kim was a great guest. I mean, you know, I feel like I'm going to be kind of redundant and repetitive because there's not been any guests that I was disappointed in. There have been some that were just spectacular, no question. And Kim was up there. I loved it. And as a matter of fact, what I loved about Kim, as I move to the person I'm going to talk about next, is that she had this spirit about her that where it was this fearlessness about her. And that reminds me of when we had Ava on the show. And you know, Ava's a 10-year-old. And when I saw her earlier in the week, no, she was actually a witness to help us set up for the podcast the previous week. And based on the conversation I had hanging out with her after that, that's what, you know, really inspired me to invite her. You know, she was like, I would love to do something like that. And I was like, really? You think you could do it? You want to be on the show? And she was like, oh, really? Oh my God. And the fact that she was ready and came on And remember, D-Rex, I told her, I was like, do some research and about Erie. What is it you want to talk about? And what she wanted to talk about was about how Erie gets a bad rap. And let me just play this little clip about her talking about how she's not okay with it.
President, and I heard people like talking about my city, I would have been pretty mad. So I kept saying, just you can't judge a book by its cover. Think about the president. If you said something bad to the president, he would really get offended because it's his city. He really can't control how people act, you know? One thing that like really stuck out to me is Waldemar. They have like a lot of bad reports. They're all fights, and like I kind of feel bad for the manager because the manager is a sweet guy. Me and my dad go to Waldemar a lot, and fights happen, and it was not that busy. It used to be like packed, and it's like 80 degrees, and it's not busy at all. Like we could find a parking spot like that.
What she was talking about is about I asked her about about Erie, what she would like to talk about. She's like, well, Erie gets a bad rap because of the fighting, and she's talking about how Erie had been on the news for the wrong reasons. And I was like, if you were to come on the show, what would you want to talk about? And she's like, well, I would just want to get the word out about Erie and how it's not as bad as you think, And I was just so blown away by this 10-year-old, And the thing is, man, you hang out with that girl for 5 minutes and she blows you away the whole time. So what another wonderful experience that was having her on.
Yeah, that was really nice to see that see the young people having these big thoughts and big dreams, and seeing how they feel they can change the world. A lot of people lose that as they get older. And it was really nice to visit with a young person who's so fresh and unspoiled and excited,
Yeah, and that's the thing is that a lot of the guests that we've had on, like the next one we're going to talk about, Chet, had messages to send and real applicable lessons in life that are tangible. And then you have our guests like Kim and Ava, that it's a spiritual thing almost. I mean, obviously Ava's a child, but the girl she's got spirit. And Kim, I mean, your heartbeat accelerates knowing the fearlessness that she goes about her life with. And then you got Chet, that comes up, like you said, he's started a movement,
Oh yeah. So I think the thing about our guest Chet Dine, he's an interesting guy, and we actually went to school with him in high school and middle school for me. And he started this 100-mile challenge. It was something he was doing at the gym he was working at the time or working for. And it was, you have to run 100 miles in the month of January. And I think this is a cool idea. Everybody likes a project, right? And sometimes people can't motivate themselves. And this just started out at his local gym and then continued it the next year. And then he continued it the next year. And now we're working on, I think it's 12th or 13th year of Chet's 100-mile challenge.
It might even be more. I feel like it was 13 when we did it this year. So it's going on 14.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but it's over a decade of this. And I love the power of, I did this simple organization and just did it again. And then I just did it again. And then suddenly you have something that people look forward to. Hundreds of people participate in. And if you're interested in this, there's a Facebook group for it. And it's over a decade in the making, and it just grows every year. And it just shows you the power of consistency and just doing something over and over again.
Yeah, Chet, the fact, he was going up and down the East Coast. He was working for, I think it was some sort of gym that he was opening up franchises along the coast, I believe is what happened. Excuse me. And that's how he got the word out on such a broad scale. And yeah, that's a really cool thing to be a part of. I've only done it once, and I've actually pulled a muscle. It's the only time in my life I've ever had a legit pulled muscle. I pulled a muscle in my calf when I was running, because running 100 miles, y'all, ain't easy in 1 month.
Yeah. It's not. And I try it every single year. I've only succeeded once. And the other years that I didn't succeed, I didn't exactly fail. But I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that he puts together there every year.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we can get through this, D-Rex. You do got a little bit of a choppy audio there.
I see
But
that.
nevertheless, you know, sometimes maybe just do the finger clap if you see yourself freezing or whatever. But but we'll get through it. No, seriously,
Yeah,
Chet. What I about Chet, you know, he's motivated people. Like you said, it's a project and gives you something to be a part of. And Carolina, maybe you know, if you're still around in January, we might want to try to do that. I'd be more than happy to help you motivate towards running 100 miles in a month. And I know
I
D-Rex
used to
really
be
wants
a
to do that.
runner. I used to run 7 miles a day, and I wore out my knees. So now I don't run as much as I do, but
You
I
can
still
walk
walk.
it.
I mean,
You
oh
walk.
yeah, I miss running so much. Like I do once in a while, but I'm pretty sure it won't hurt me so bad. Not 100 miles, but yeah, I can walk and I can run. It will be so much fun for
Yeah, I mean,
sure. I'm all in.
the mileage you put just taking Nacho around, you probably get halfway there. Just let that alone. Check out my man Darren's in the house. What's up, D's? No, but listen, not not only did Chet, you know, get so many people up and down the coast motivated. That's, I mean, if you know Chet, man, he's such a lovable and easygoing guy, man. And so he's so nice that if he could ask me to jump, and I would. Doesn't matter what I'm jumping off of. I just love that guy. But as far as like motivating, Chet was motivating people to do something that is very powerful and very necessary. And I wish more people knew the power of it. But the next guest that we were talking about, Bill and Marsha, these guys are motivating people to donate organs. That's a whole
It's
nother level.
amazing.
That's on a different perspective
That's
or a different
amazing how to
spectrum.
see your partner trying to save your life and giving your kidney to save your life. That's amazing. Like that's very, you know, that's
Hell,
that touched my heart really deep because that's how much they love each other.
yeah. I mean, when you think about partnering with somebody to help pay the bills or something like that, that's one thing. And even if you like sign on the dotted line and you get married or like you know have some businesses together, that's another thing. But when you are donating organs, that is a life contract. That's a
That's true love.
Yeah. And that's not to say that those
So
of us that aren't donating organs aren't truly in love, but I mean that's but just raising awareness on that behalf was something that I was
mhm.
very, very happy to do. 100%.
Yeah, that was really exciting to talk about. And then we also had your friend and now our friend too, Jay Calcutt on. And I would like to say something about Jay because I did not know him. I did not know him personally. But when we had all those travel snafus with me getting to Destin, Florida at Thanksgiving, I ended up on a flight to somewhere 4 hours away. I couldn't fly into Destin. There were no flights. I had to fly into New Orleans. And you guys were hanging out and partying when I called and said, I can only go into New Orleans. And you said, okay, I'll pick you up. And it
Wow,
took
that's like
Jay no
five
time at
hours
all
drive.
it's 4. It was over 4. And
Yeah, that's
like
long.
instantly Jay said, okay, I'm going too. He didn't even know me. He just jumped into action. And I think that's what's really cool
Wow.
about his episode. If you go back and watch it, is about how he just changed his course. He just jumps into action. He takes care of his friends, and that was really inspiring to see that
I wish
action. Jumped in and went trip.
I wish I could have I wish I had that moment of him telling me he was going with me on video. It's a magic moment that I'll never forget and as long as I live. So I got the word from you that you were being rerouted to NOLA. And I was at Squell's house. Remember me? I was over at Scott's house having dinner, and I was going to meet up with all those guys. They were at the bowling alley, Brother Doug and Jay and all those guys. And so when I got there, they were probably in some way expecting that I would have you with me, having picked you up at Valp, or at least you were en route in some way, shape, or form. When I get there and I walked in and I was like, and I broke the news down, they were all like, "Oh man, that sucks," and they kept on bowling. And Jay didn't really move much. He just kind of sat there, kind of looking at me. You know, in the retrospect, I don't know how long that went on. Maybe it was a minute or two, but it felt like however long it was. The whole time he was like waiting for me to like ask somebody to go with me, and I didn't ask anybody. And then he just like was like, "Look, bro, you're not going alone, man. I'm going with you." And I was like, "Man, what you mean?" He's like, "Dude," he's like, "I'm not gonna let you go alone." That's Jake Cowcut, man. That is my boy. That is my dog. That's my brother, man. That dude he is taking care of my brother better than I have, and he's not even blood. Like that's the kind of heart that Jake's got, man. That's real. It's for real.
So I would like.
That's awesome.
D-Rex, we lost you.
We lost her.
Yes, we did. We lost D-Rex, and as a matter of
Well,
fact, that's a temporary loss, but that gives me a minute just
she will come back. She will come back.
Yeah. While we're waiting on her, let's go ahead and give this a run because this is kind of I was just talking about swells.
A
This is one of my-
Sweetism from 2019, but I would like to read a little excerpt from this book. Okay, it says, and I'm not going to pretend to like use his cadence or voice. I'm just going to read it, okay? So many times in my life, I've had people tell me I can count my true friends on one hand. We all have different ideas as to what a true friend is, but no one will argue that they're in high demand. It rhymes. He always rhymes. Myself, I ran out of room on my right hand before I hit my teens. And as of today, I can honestly say I couldn't count them all on me. Oh, all on me pubes, it seems. I can't believe he made me say pubes on the internet. Why did you make me do that?
Sweet.
One of my favorite moments of this, when we were talking about reviewing this thing and going back over and like reliving some of the moments.
I bet
we
she want to kill you.
Because it's the guests that have made it worthwhile, and that just allows you to spread so much wisdom so much quicker when you have other people's perspectives involved. But we also wanted to talk about the shows that stood out to us, and that episode of that show, or that moment in that show was hilarious.
She had no idea what was coming. She just said, "What?"
Yeah, she's just reading it. She didn't see it coming at all. But there, here the next guest we could talk about somebody that you have experience with, Carol. That's Kelly, cowgirl. Kelly came in, and so Kelly rescued me. That girl,
Oh my God.
literally, she saw me like arguing with the people that ran the facility that I was living in, and at that stage, I hadn't found any other caregivers. It was me against the world trying to find people to help me. And I met Kelly, she answered the ad that we put up. And after knowing her for just like a couple weeks and, finding people to do that kind of work is not easy, and so it took us a minute. And finally, when she saw me arguing with the facilitators and she like realized how terribly they treat people there, she was just like, "You're never going to have to stay there again. I don't care. I'm calling my husband right now. I'm telling him that I'm not letting you go back to that place." And that girl was ready to wait on me hand and foot. And that was at a time when coming out of that facility, it was dangerous. Like we didn't know what life was going to be like for me without 24/7 care. And that was a big, huge, humongous step. So mad love to cowgirl Kelly, our vegan champion from roots and fruit. So from roots and fruits from cowboy boots. I don't know why that's so hard for me to say. Roots and fruits from cowboy boots. Get it? Roots and fruits like vegetables and stuff from cowboy boots. Because she grew up on a farm, and how cool is
that's
that?
actually what I find super inspiring about Kelly's story is that she grew up on a farm where animals were being slaughtered for food. And she just developed such compassion for animals so much that she's now a vegan and doesn't want to harm any living creature on earth. But she still has compassion for people who work in the meat industry and for animals who are going to be slaughtered for food. And she has all these great ideas on the best way to do that, the best practices. And I thought her episode was fascinating.
Awesome.
Speaking of
That's
fascinating,
awesome
Go ahead,
people.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go
That's awesome. Very inspirational for people who like me. I love animals. I I love animals, and I love to hear those kind of stories because it's very inspirational on, not just compassion with humans, but there's people that there's not a lot of compassion through animals, and it's amazing to see human beings doing those kind of things. She's a great inspiration.
As a person that takes better care of their animal than most people take of their humans, coming from you, that's a credible resource right there.
Yeah.
I think
Speaking,
one of the best things
Okay.
about Kelly's episode was when she did her cow call, the call that she would use to call the cows,
oh
or her
my
dad
God.
would. But
Oh
Kelly's an
man, I
awesome
forgot.
human being, and that episode is definitely worth a check out if you haven't seen it. Before my camera and my Wi-Fi cut out, and I don't know if you got a chance to talk about Mabel Howard, but I would like to. Did you talk about her while I was
No,
missing in action? Okay,
it
because
was yours. Yeah.
I would really like to bring her episode up, because talk about inspirational. This girl, and she was a schoolmate of ours way back in the day, and she's living in Erie still, and she's helping out. She's helping people in need on the ground level, helping them physically, handing them things. I mean, she is like a true helper in every way. And not only that, she has supported the artistic community with her poetry readings. I mean, if you are thinking about trying to better yourself or put some art out in the world, or how can you help people, I would definitely check out her episode, because everything she says makes you want to do something. She's so involved in helping, and I just love the way she talked about helping without judging. I felt that was very important, that
Yeah.
you help without trying to judge whether the person deserves it or not. Everybody deserves help in her eyes.
Yeah, she's verse 23.26. The art of community leadership. And you're right, that was a very powerful message. She said that she had instances where, as a person who was working in a community center where it's all, it's all charity. They're there helping people in the community that need it. And she said that when somebody comes up and asks for help, you don't judge them. You don't look and say, well, your shirt's too clean or your car's too nice. You don't need help. You help the people if they ask for help, and you don't judge. And I mean, such a refreshing attitude, to see. And that's the thing, man. Like I was making the point of earlier, D-Rex, that I've had a lot of my my close compadres and buddies over the years that have commented about this show and about the theme of the show, and like, surprised I'm not talking about football and boobs and beer, and I mean, look, I like those things, but that message is being replayed over and over and over there. What I'm hoping here, and what I think, with the help of personalities such as yours, both of you, to perpetuate, is more do good messages, more of the reasons to believe in people and to love people. When there's so much going on that gets everything we hear about is all negative. We always hear about negative news. Is always negative. All the news is negative. Everything's negative. I want to highlight people like Mabel that give you reason to believe in people.
Right.
Yeah, you feel the hope. You feel the hope for that city and for humankind in general after talking with her. So many people that have come on this podcast have really inspired me to think about how to be a better person on a daily basis. And then,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You.
I was going to say.
Okay, I go ahead.
Okay, you go ahead, Caro.
Yeah, Caro.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing how sometimes I am very ungrateful sometimes and complainer. And when I hear them telling their stories, I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky. It makes me think about how lucky we are, how strong other people can be facing all kind of situations, and it makes us see our problems in a different perspective, and try to be better human beings.
I love that.
Definitely.
I love that that's your takeaway. And I want to sidestep real quick though. Not all of the episodes have been heartstring pullers like Jay Sable's episode, which was we were just like that was a entertainment based, and
Well,
the
let's
art the
describe
art is
what
original.
that was. That was
Yeah.
a Halloween episode where we were telling real life ghost stories, and Jay Sable's professional storyteller, and I mean that was so entertaining. I really enjoyed that. And
Yeah.
if you like ghost stories, please go back and check our Halloween episode last year with Jay Sable, because I feel like storytelling is such a human thing, and it's still alive. And I really loved hearing him tell his story in his own way. And it just got me thinking about how humans have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. Who knows how many thousands? And here we are
Yeah.
today, still enjoying this art form.
Still telling stories. What humans have been doing. Yeah. Storytelling is the backbone of religion. It's the backbone of science. I mean, nowadays that's the thing about science is science somewhat debunks storytelling, but at the same time, like now with wisdom and all of our abilities to prove, now we're just telling true stories. Where back then it was just kind of like make it up, and if the kids believe it, it slides. But you know what
Yeah,
else we've been doing for a long time?
everything's this. Hmm.
You know what else we've been doing for a long time, ladies?
What?
Drinking
Oh.
alcohol. One of my favorite pastimes,
Mhm.
but not
Mhm.
something that I'm hooked on. And we've had
Okay,
quite a
bro.
bit of talk, throughout the course of this past year, with our friends that have been successful in eliminating that demon. Not look,
Mhm.
alcohol is not a demon to everybody. Some people can't have a sip, and some people can't have enough. But unfortunately, because it is such a staple in society, that those of us that can't have a sip are still very vulnerable. And luckily, we've had a couple real success stories on this show about people that have gone a little bit too far or been vulnerable to alcohol and then recovered. Like, I mean, Bull's story itself, like that was the main driving
Okay,
home point of his story.
but you have to mention what episode and his full name, Jeremy Bullock, because if people want to check this stuff out, they have to
Yeah.
know what they're looking for here. So Jeremy was so cool and such an eloquent speaker of telling his personal story of giving up alcohol and changing his life, and it was very inspirational to me. Also, Brian Schuerman,
Oh
who's
my
an
God, Brian.
outdoor, yeah, in Alaska. He's an outdoorsman in Alaska and a
Yeah.
paratrooper.
I had
His
the pleasure to meet him, and I witnessed how he was before, and I witnessed how he turned after quit drinking. And oh my God, his transformation was amazing. It was
So
amazing.
yeah, it blew me away, both of them. I would like to have been able to witness that, because from what Jerry told me, Brian was 120 miles an hour, just like one of those guys. And I would love to see how, the way that he described the change for him, it was very inspirational to me. And Jeremy also. And by the way, Jeremy was on episode 23.18 and Brian is 23.15. So right there within a couple months period or a couple weeks period, we had two success stories and about having been able to overcome alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not only
And
that, when we had Erin Buzik on to talk about her journey in her life, also stepping away from alcohol and how that changed things for her. Now, this is not a sober podcast, but we've had 3 really important stories on here about giving up alcohol and moving forward in a positive way. And I've found them all very inspiring personally. And I'm not a heavy drinker, but I'm also not going to be giving up alcohol. But I did really enjoy their stories. Regardless, you don't have to be trying to give up alcohol to enjoy their stories.
Amen. And Boozy, the fact that she is turning it into, not only is she living it, but she's preaching it now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to be honest with you, I have been, you know, throughout my life, heavier drinker than most. And those stories have influenced me to drink less, frankly. You know, getting injured, took alcohol, down a few notches for me. But then once I got reintegrated into the community, I was right back at enjoying it as much as I ever did. And then honestly, this podcast has influenced me, you know, just to drink less when I do drink, and drink
Mm-hmm.
less often, you know. And I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to say that the guests that we've had on this show, I have gained a great deal of wisdom and inspiration, and my life has been greatly influenced by them, you know, and I'm so happy for that. And no, we're not a sober
Absolutely.
podcast, but what's wrong with positive influence, right?
Nothing. You know, let's move along because we have so many people that there are important points to make for each one. But I'd first like
Yeah,
to
right.
say that our episode about the blue zones on Earth, where people are living over 100 years old, what a great podcast! Go back and watch that one if you haven't seen it. The answers are right in front of your face to help you live a longer and a better life. They're easy to find, and they're just go back and watch that episode. We outline each one. That is so inspiring to me to try to live better, because everybody would like to live longer if they can live better. And it's so easy to live better and make these choices. But that was not a guest. Um, but I felt like the blue zones were a guest. But let's talk about our friend
Yeah.
Bethany, who we recently had on. She's up in Alaska. She's the
Oh
Alaskan
yeah.
relic hunter. Grew up in a cult, left a cult. I mean, what a crazy
What? Yeah.
Oh my
story.
God, yeah, she's one of my favorite stories, and especially because I know, I mean, I've been there, and I know how hard it is to survive there, and all the
Mhm.
fear and everything she has to, face and defeat her fears for a lot of things, and became a super strong and independent woman after being abused after years and years, and it's so inspirational for a lot of people who has been in that situation, a similar situation like that. It's amazing how she did.
I can't imagine braving the wilderness the way that she did. You know, for those of you that want to check out Bethany's episode, we just had her on. You know, just a couple, well, about 4 episodes ago. She was episode 23.34. So yeah, 4 episodes ago, this girl was pregnant, living in a tent in the Alaskan wilderness in the wintertime with other young children, living with a generator to generate heat, not even legitimate, like, um, uh, you know, uh, insulation. And you want to talk about living a deliberate and intentional and a purposeful life. The words that she said to me that stopped my heart while I was having our initial conversation. I asked her about it, and she said, "I just realized one day that happiness was a choice." She's living in, in these extreme conditions with an extremely crazy and outrageous background, like the stuff that you think only happens in movies, as far as like the stuff she'd been through. And
Right.
there, and she decided that she wanted to make happiness a choice. You want to talk about getting busy living? You want to talk about how getting busy living means different things to everybody, right? Um, but we can all agree that it's about having some element of success and prosperity, in your life. And for this girl to just say that happiness was a choice after all that she'd been through, and to smile so bright and to be so charismatic. I mean, man, I've gotten so much out of the guests over the course of the past year, and she's right up there. She's doing
Mhm.
extreme scuba diving in Alaska, for crying out loud.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And how about when we had Summer Badler on to talk about how she was getting into real estate at a young age and just taking on the world by storm. And it's wonderful to talk to young people who are trying hard to do things. And she was a real inspiration for me to look into how I could shape my life, and think about where I'm headed more. She was a very interesting episode to check out if you are looking to make choices in your life to propel you forward and plan accordingly.
Yeah, she's episode 23.9. So she was the first week in March, I believe. And yeah, she's relentless in a relentless pursuit. She's like, she had a very positive family unit that kept her headed in the right direction. And graduating high school with a real estate license and having a bachelor's degree before she's old enough to drink. And I met her via her pursuit. Like, she is already like heavily involved in students and jobs and tutoring and her family business and real estate. And then she's looking for more. And that she met me through, being open-minded about another opportunity to have another income stream. So yeah, I mean, wow. And she's one of the examples, like her and Kelly, examples of friends I made in this town because of my condition, that now, although I still have that condition, they're no longer involved in my life through that condition. And now they're just genuinely good friends of mine, like, so some of the people, like, I didn't even know Jay, I didn't know Mabel, and then some of the people I know so well, it's kind of, they're like on the inside of my bubble. And so to see Summer talk about, her life on other levels that I wasn't intimately involved with, to know that she is so hungry like that was really another inspiration. And then she, speaking of success stories, because not we've had some real heartbreakers and we've had some real like uplifters, and Summer was an uplifting story. And Greg, what about Greg, like building a boat?
Well, I thought it was very interesting.
yeah.
Greg is a yacht salesman in Florida, and he had some very interesting things to say about how he got there. But what I found very interesting about him is that he's had this dream that he wants to sail. So he bought a fixer-upper yacht, and he's getting his hands dirty, and he's got this dream, and he says it's not easy, it's not going great, but he's still going for it. And I like that. It's not easy. You're getting your hands dirty. It's costing you a lot of money, but he's got a dream and he's going for it. And I thought that was great.
Yeah, Greg, don't you, Carol?
Yeah, Greg is a great guy, and I have seen him with his hands dirty, and he has to do whatever he has to do to accomplish his mission, and he's very persistent. And yeah, he blows my mind because he's very successful, but he doesn't care what he has to do. If he has to go to the engine and be dirty from the head to toe and stay there for 8 hours, he's that kind of guy. Like he does whatever he has to do to accomplish his goals.
I
And
love that. Listen, wow. I believe with starting with the end in mind and reverse engineering back to where you are today, and this is a man that is living proof of that. That he wanted to sail, and now, the end and the now. There's an in between, and he's like the in between right now. But what I've heard, rumor has it that the project is almost finished, and it's about time to
Wow.
set sail. So yeah, when it's time we're gonna have to get him back on when
Yeah,
he's
we'll have to
actually
catch up with him.
when he's actually catching wind for real.
And I like what you guys were saying about how he does what he has to do. And I felt that about our friend Drea, who we had on, talking about how she had disease inflicted upon her. She had no control over this. And talking, she does what she has to do in a different manner. But when she was talking about having compassion for people because you don't know what they're going through, I feel like that's a really important message. And I'm so glad that we had her on to talk about that.
Yeah, that was a real heart wrenching story for me because, I value myself as a friend, and I take a great deal of pride in being a friend. And nobody's perfect. I'm not a perfect friend. But she and I were friends when she got that news. And when she and I were talking about that stage of her life, she was describing how she had, gone through the loss of friendships. And you don't realize, I was so heavily involved in my overall life, and she was a friend, but it wasn't like we weren't roll dogs every day. but I felt ashamed of myself that I was not aware of what she was going through, even though I might have been aware factually of it. I wasn't aware emotionally or behind the scenes what was going on. And she suffered a lot of loss because of her. The disease itself has an impact on your behavior. And when people don't realize that you're behaving a certain way because of a dis-ease, then there's less compassion, less empathy. And so because of those things, she suffered a lot of loss. And that was so heartbreaking for me because
Yeah.
I felt personally responsible because I could have been there. I was a friend in her life and I wasn't there for her. And that broke me. It broke me. I still.
Well, it's interesting how this podcast affects us on a weekly basis. It having guests on and talking to them, it never gets old and it never stops changing us. So
Yeah.
that you could
at one point
change that.
Yeah, the thing is that like that really like Drea's episode was one of the episodes for me that like kind of peeled the lid open a little bit for me and was like, man, how did you let that one get by you? How was I not there for her more? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And when it comes to being aware, what about Leaf's level of awareness? Going over, I mean, he motivated immediately and is, he's still over there getting his hands
Let's
dirty.
remind people who Leaf is. He's living in Hawaii, working his job, living a good life when the fire in Lahaina hit, and he jumped into action and started community organizing to get people funds and to help them get what they needed. And that was super inspiring and heartbreaking stories that were coming straight from Lahaina. He was telling us the stories of the people he was interacting with. And that's a really important episode. There's no way we can encapsulate it talking about it right now. You would just have to go back and watch it. And it's worth it.
It's crazy the amount of emotional weight that you have to put on your shoulders when you're helping all that people, and you have to listen all the stories and everything people is going through, and then you have to go to your house and try to rest and then come back next day and keep helping, and he keep helping. Like I wonder how he feels after all that. Like it must be so difficult to go through all that, the emotional weight from everybody. Like you have to be a superhero to do that.
Remember when he was telling the story about camping out with the kids after one of the long days of relief efforts, and then just being there and just one by one. Can you imagine being around? Like when I think of campfires, I think of kumbaya and shit. I don't think about like surrounded, gathering around a campfire for heat because your life just got gone up in smoke. For him to describe being there and like everybody like gathering around this campfire and sharing stories about what they'd been through that day or that week. Oh man, that gripped me, and to see him just motivate like that and be ready to help and that was one of the episodes that we had that was a current event. The only episode that we had that was a current event episode, the type of shit you see on the news. But we had a couple other newsworthy episodes. What about Price and Bleak's story?
I want to talk about Melanie, my girl Melanie first.
Oh yeah,
I think you're skipping her. So Melanie, oh my God, she's one of my favorite girls because I met her a long time ago, and that's how I met this guy here, sweet. So yeah, we used to do a network marketing business, and that's how we met. But Melanie, it's funny because at the beginning, I didn't get along with her, but as much I know her, I recognize how strong she is, how he motivates everyone because she's so persistent. He does whatever she does whatever she has to do to pursue her goals, and also she's very passionate about traveling like me, so I feel a lot of things in common with her. And she's like, if she's the girl who she wants to compete for a bodybuilder contest. She prepares herself 90 days to do that, and then all of a sudden she looks like, wow, like, oh my God, everything she's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and she she does it exactly the way she has
You
to.
know,
Like,
I think the
she's great.
important thing that I took away from her episode is how she envisions it first. She's pretty much a big fan of like the vision board idea and
Yeah.
manifesting that through consistent and persistent thoughts, and that's
Right.
really important. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, I would definitely go back and check out her episode, Melanie Levitt's.
Yeah, you know what? I need more Mel in my life. She was helping me. She's a coach, among so many other things, but she helped me organize myself and get this thing off the ground. When I was going into last summer, I had had so many medical complications that set me back with so many different aspects of my life. That there was no way that I was going to be able to pull off getting the Help Suite of Walking organization founded and also getting this podcast launched at the time that I wanted to do it without Melanie's help. She did a great job of getting me organized, and her vision board process and the Freedom Mastery Planner book that she introduced me to made major progress for me. And you know what? I need more of that in my life. That reminds me, I need to get back with Mel. I'm right back where I was last year about this time, needing some help getting my stuff
We
pulled
miss you,
together.
Mel.
No,
Come back soon.
no, this is not something you can stay on. This is like you need a gentle reminding of things that worked for you and that you should get back to it. That's how life goes. You can't stay on something 100%. So this is our gentle reminder to get back to this process. You know, we're running low on time, but there's important stories to talk about. Let's move along to talking about Bleak and Price, who are actually two different episodes, both completely worth watching. Totally inspirational stories of hardship and then luck and then extreme hardship and then luck. And what it comes down to is that these guys decide and choose what they want to do next, and they're crafting their lives and they're putting art into the world no matter how busy they get. And it's very important for them to express themselves creatively. And I think that it's a lot of people, as they become adults, they forget this is an important part of life. And I don't feel like that was the biggest part of the podcast that they were on. They have both amazing stories that tie in together. There's no way to encapsulate it here in just a few minutes. I would just say that if you're interested in
a lot of things to talk about,
like what does Bleak say that you have to? He's be the architect of your life.
Architect of your life.
Yeah.
And Price. So what I loved about they approaching them about being guests was they're kind of they're a duo. You know, those are my dogs.
Definitely.
They're a brotherhood.
Definitely.
But they lead completely separate lives. You know, they come together creatively and artistically, and then they go back to their families. You know, and so them being on the show was not a collaborative effort. It was Bleak came on once, and then Price came on another time. But when you hear their messages, their stories are separate. You wouldn't know that they were about the same incident because they tell them so uniquely. But the bottom line is, you know, when we approach Price when something like that happens, he said the word he used was tactical assault. He said he had a tactical assault was performed upon him.
That's great.
And in his recovery afterwards, and we asked for his advice on how you get through moments like that in life where it feels like there is no getting through. And like you just said, Caro, just breathe. Just breathe. And then Bleak's message was, you know, when it's time to decide, or, you know, you can't just be a victim. Bleak's message was, you can't just be a victim and just do what, you know, the other victims are doing. He was like, you know, it's up to you to decide. You know, his grandfather told him when he was a kid about deciding what to do with your life. And he said that he lived that the first stage of his life was doing what everybody else was doing. And he was easily influenced by mainstream, but that he realized through this terrible process of, you know, the incident that happened to him, that he needed to make better decisions and take control of his life. And his name, Oblique the Architect, he chose the name Oblique. I believe that the story he told me is he chose the word oblique as his stage presence because that's the hardest muscle in your body to work and to become clearly defined. And that he wanted to, you know, take on the hardest goal and task and set his goal on that and pursue that. I just thought that says a lot about his character, man. And you know, I mean, for I loved everybody that's come on the show. There's not been anyone that I didn't fall in love with, but some of them just make me want to just like get them back on or stomp on my feet and light a match with those motherfuckers. You know,
well, I think that's an excellent episode for anybody who might have a young person who's struggling with making bad choices. Excellent episode with Bleak that you can send to someone who might need some inspiration for making better choices. Yes, some great advice in there for young people.
Absolutely. I think there's been lots of nuggets and lots of wisdom imparted. But that just leads me to the last two guys I want to talk about. I know we're over, and maybe you know, these guys, for me personally, they're like my left and right, you know, ventricles, or you know, each side of my heart. You know, when I got injured, Scott quit his job without even thinking twice about it and sent his fiance to Alaska without him and was in Bali holding my hand and riding on a jet with me. If you ever want a lesson about what a true friend is, Scott's the epitome. Jerry got there shortly after Scott did, but was right there with Scott. They protected me from the doctors and if those guys hadn't been there, I would have died. There's no question. So many times, Carol, you know, because you were there too for a lot of it. There were so many times when the nurses weren't
They're
responding.
terrible. They
I was
they
getting
just-
so I have this little thing on my throat here that's a whole scar from where my trach was at, and there was a tube going down in there, and I had such a bad bug that I had this phlegm and so much that needed to be drained out of my lungs. And like once an hour, they were sticking this thing down in there and like sucking this phlegm out of my lungs. So many times I would have died if Jerry and Scott hadn't been there to either do it themselves, which both of them eventually learned how to do it because they had to, or go run out in the hallway and yell at people to come because I was like
all the
gasping
time,
and choking.
constantly. Yeah,
terrible. You know, and Jerry specifically, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about what he's been to me, his advice, his camaraderie, you know, the talks that we've had about the professional world and about the real world and about the business world. You know, the guy he's packed with wisdom and knowledge, and he has a punch of entertainment value to him that I respect. So I got so much love for Jerry, and I appreciate, you know, him coming and spending time with me in Malaysia and all the other efforts that he's put forth. You know, he's lived here, he's gotten his hands dirty in my life as much as just about anyone. So I got mad love and respect for that guy. But and I can't say enough about Scott Wells. I can't say enough. In fact, since I can't say enough, before I give you guys an opportunity to make a parting shot, I would just like to have a motherfucking moment of silence for Scooty Wells. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for quitting your job and saving my life. We have so many memories. We've traveled around this country or this world together, and we've never had an awkward moment. There's never been not even a sliver of resentment or frustration. Carol, you know what it's like to ride with me for 17 days. That dude's done it for 2 or 3 times that long, and we've never had a hitch. So thank you for giving me a moment of silence for Scooty Wells. Give you guys an opportunity to say your parting shots. Thank you so much for this last year.
Yeah, you know,
thank you too.
I just recently met Scott Wells on the trip to Destin, and first of all, you cannot say anything bad about this guy. I mean, he's just got charisma for days and welcomes you like he's known you forever. Welcomed me into his house and his family. I just met him. And for him to jump into action for you when you need it the most says everything you need to know about him. And his episode with his stories is so highly entertaining. And not only that, inspirational when he talks about how to be a good friend. And I just think the whole thing is definitely worth going back and watching it. It was almost a year ago now that we had him on. So worth going to check out.
That was episode 4 back then with Scooty Wells. And, you know, that episode was especially heartwarming for me, D-Rex, because I was too sick. Remember, I was dying. And you and Scott came together, and for me to be laying in my bed, like feeling like emotionally drained and not having enough energy to do anything. I don't even think I spoke to you guys during that show. I might have said a word or two, like at the end, but I was like exhausted. I was so exhausted. I didn't think that I had any chemicals in my body left to come out. But to have you and him execute that episode, and the things that you guys said during that show, and the stories that got told, and the friendship that was demonstrated, was just overwhelmed me, and I was like fighting back tears the whole time, you know. And you know, something that's come from this injury is that I've learned that crying is actually a good release. And man, that was a heck of a release during that episode, just having you guys do that. So seriously, guys, this Git Bizzy Livin project, what can I say about it? I believe in it. I'm not going to quit until I can throw that huge party. I'm not going to stop until I help other people the way that I've been helped. And I'm not going to stop until you guys continuously get busy living with me. So thank you, both of you, for everything, for all of the times that you've wanted to reach through the phone and poke me in the eye, or reach around the corner and yank my hair. I appreciate you. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your persistence, the love that you show me, the laughing at my jokes and teaching me lessons all along the way. Thank you so much, D-Rex. Thank you so much, Carolinaaah. And
thank you,
together.
Hell yeah. So I just hope that all of you that have participated in this continue to. Those of you that have yet to, I hope that you will. Please go to the hswa.org. Look at the opportunities that are there to help us with Schaefer, and come back next Thursday. Next Thursday, we are going to have an extra special episode. We're going to have my man Schaefer. We're going to have Lori, and we're going to tell the story about the first person that the Help Swede Walk-In organization is going to help that's not Swede. So come back next Thursday. And always remember, no matter the weather, we're all in this together. Whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But you gotta believe me, ain't